All right, everyone. Welcome and good evening to episode 95 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joe Laney Pavlon. Tonight I have Daniel Ford, Justin Hebert.
Yep.
Hello.
And for this episode, we will bring all the details you, the racing fan, need to know and learn before the 59th annual Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. But first, how about that qualifying race yesterday? First ever Motul Pole 100.
Yeah, it was a interesting event concept for qualifying this year. Was a really interesting thing that they decided to do when it had good moments and stuff, which I didn't know how to feel about it at first. I didn't know until I heard a couple weeks ago that they would do that format, but it was actually an interesting format they did.
And Danny?
Unfortunately, I missed out on the event because I was at work during the entire time. So I heard it was a really great event.
100 minutes. This was experimental. I think the teams understand why IMSA made this happen. The decision might have gone down the lines between if we don't have some incentive to make it mandatory, these teams show up 1 week early for the Roar before the 24, the testing sessions, then they might not show up at all. They could be wishy-washy and it might cause problems for 2021, especially with the COVID-19 mandates and restrictions. Even though we're in the state of Florida, the reality of the current situation is still there. But 50 cars on the entry list. Unfortunately, one team did have to pull out. That was Black Swan Racing. Tim Pappas and Larry Tanvord tested positive for coronavirus as the two Porsche drivers left the Dubai Autodrome last week at the Dubai 24 Hours. Black Swan Racing, the team owned by Tim Pappas, the American businessman and gentleman driver himself, had to pull out of the 2020 race. A Porsche customer team, which is that's a tough loss.
Yeah, it is. But
yeah, it's really heartbreaking. So I really wish them nothing but the best in their recovery, and hope to see them soon on the nearby track.
Yeah,
that's right. So we'll quickly roll down the results of the Motul Pole 100 in just a minute. But first, there was another endurance race that took place in this past weekend, and it was pretty much a short exhibition, fun successor of the 16th annual Dubai 24 Hours, and that was the Hankook 6 Hours of Abu Dhabi, held in the Yas Marina Circuit this summer. Not the Dubai Autodrome, it was held in the Yas Marina Circuit. And remember, in about a month from now, we have the Asian Le Mans Series running the 4 races at those 2 tracks. So there is a reason for sports car racing to continue on and proceed into the month of February. So Creventic and the 24H series said yes to that. And so there was a race. Only, I think, 14 cars were on the entry list overall, and the classes were just split in few. Car collection did take the win. It was the number 88 car collection Motorsport Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo, driven by Antares Au, John Loggie, and Chris Froggatt. They won, and it was actually supposed to be. Everyone was looking at Attempto Racing Audi because they had the factory drivers who did not participate in the Rolex 24, but their car failed. Like many cars do in an endurance race, and in the end it was car number 88. Congratulations to them. The top 3 podium, second place was 4 laps off the lead lap. Number 710 Leipert Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo finished second overall in the GT class. Third place was the Porsche 991 Cup class winner, which was
the only car in the class.
The 924 car.
Yeah, that was the only
car in the 991 class, but they finished third overall. So
yeah,
congrats to them.
Then you got the highest TG class car. Fourth place was the number 438 ST Racing entry. They were the highest in that class, the 438 ST.
Samantha 10, John Miller, they actually won the Dubai 24 Hours
Yeah,
last week in the GT4 class. The TG class was just a mix between GT4s and TCRs,
yeah,
as well as some of the cars that were in the TCX class. Second and third, it was a 218 Sally Racing Cooper DSG, and third place was the PK Car Sport BMW M2 CS Racing Machine. It was an exhibition, no points counted, which means the next time you'll see these cars on track in the Creventic 24H series will be on the 26th of March at the 12 Hours of Mugello.
Yep.
So we'll be racing in Tuscany, hopefully, by the time we get to the end of March. And of course, hopefully, meaning that we don't know. It's rocky.
And it's also still January. It's not March yet. We can't go in the future and know how March is going to be. No, time travel does not exist yet. Yeah.
So, that out of the way, let's discuss what happened on track yesterday in the Motul Pole 100 for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship opening 24 Hours of Daytona.
It was the race started with who was the pole sitter again? I'm trying to.
It was actually the winning car, number 31, but they were excluded after qualifying in Ferme, which put the Mazda on pole.
Yeah, that put Mazda's number 55 on pole over the number 01 Cadillac.
Racing.
Yeah, the Chip Ganassi car, which at the start, Mazda looked like they would take the lead. A bold move, taking the lead. Kevin Magnussen, at the time driving the number 01, took the lead. He took the lead in his number 01 and at one point just ran away for a little bit.
Something that we usually see his father, Jan Magnussen, do, even in this present day. Which, I don't think he's racing this year. He'll be running the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah. But a thing about that, and then after we had a couple full course yellows, 2, I think. We had a couple. I remember there was 8 full course yellow laps in total. We had one early on. We had a couple, but then at one point, I remember most of the cars pitted. The 01 stayed out. So that forced the 01 to pit when it was going to green flag.
Right. And it threw them off the podium.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they decided to not pit under caution like most of the people did. And that's how the number 31, I remember the 31 at one point had a battle with the 5, the
JDC. Mustang sampling car.
Yeah, they were battling, and the 55 was part of that for a little bit, but at the end, number 31, the Whelen Engineering Racing Cadillac, won.
Was it worth, forcing the effort, pushing hard in this 100-minute qualifying race, knowing that there are unknowns everywhere for an introduction race? And to make matters worse, the race that sets the field for the big race began under wet conditions with amateur level drivers having problems in the LMP3 class. And
the LMP3 cars, they finished behind some GTLM and GTD cars, but it was a wet conditions, which doesn't really help, but at least they have practice sessions starting on Thursday. They have the first practice sessions for the Rolex 24s on Thursday, the 28th.
Yes, they get actually 3 sessions on Thursday, 4 total post qualifying free practice sessions that begin on Thursday morning, including Thursday night, 1 nighttime hour practice.
Yeah.
And then the last practice session will be on Friday. I'm not so sure if they do morning warm-ups. I wouldn't be surprised if they have morning warm-ups, but these guys have a lot of track time ahead.
Yeah, because for the Rolex 24 this year, because of usually without the Motul 100, they used to have the qualifying on the Thursday before the Rolex 24. I remember like it used to be then, but now because of I'm just looking through the schedule because I obviously have it in front of me. There actually practices start tomorrow, but it's not for the main IMSA
Not for the
team.
other championship.
It's for the Michelin Pilot Challenge and the Mazda MX Cup, which the first practices they have they have three practices on Friday. Okay, then on Thursday I meant. Friday they have one practice. But the thing is, so far on the schedule, they only have on the 30th, they only have the Rolex 24. So far there's no warm-ups, but they might add that on the thing because
They had warm-ups before the Motul Pole 100.
Yeah, because the thing about this year, if people haven't noticed, the Rolex 24 is not at the normal start usually. It starts 1 hour later than usual, if people didn't notice. So, and the reason that they did like some of the things that they usually would do on the Friday, there's not just like, there's a reason that usually this week, would have had the IMSA prototype challenge. They had that during the Roar. They had their race then because they're going to have now the Mazda MX-5 Cup challenge on their two double header races, which they now like during the Rolex.
Yes, during 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the race week. And also, you got to understand that the differences in COVID, maybe the reason to have a 100-minute qualifying race on the Roar weekend was the ultimate incentive to make sure that teams are 100% in, 100% in only. We've seen teams that say they're in the entry list, but then they unfortunately don't have the necessities to make it there.
Yeah.
Which is normal by all means, but I think the sanctioning body did a pretty good job being firm about the entries for this event.
Yeah.
And so let's go down the finishing order. So as we mentioned, it's the number 31 Action Express Whelen Engineering Cadillac DPI taking the overall pole position by winning the race. They finished ahead of the number 55 Motorsports car. Then third place in DPI class, JDC Miller Mustang Sampling Cadillac number 5. Fourth place was the number 60 Meyershank Racing Acura. Meyershank Racing, welcome back to prototype racing. And fifth place, the number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing Konica Minolta Acura, first year in the Honda powered engines for the reigning Daytona 24 champions. And on the LMP2 class, it is a lot more compact this year, especially with the additional numbers of entries. But in the end, it's the team that left off strong from last year. They haven't missed a beat. And that, of course, goes to the number 52 car. PR1 Matheson Motorsports wins entry, the Orica 07 number 52 car. They finished 8th overall, first in class with drivers Mikkel Jensen, Ben King. But the other drivers, let's not forget to mention Nicolas Lapierre and Scott Huffaker. They'll be part of the Rolex lineup.
Yeah, which is
race day.
Yeah, PR1 Matheson, they usually run the full season if people didn't notice, but like PR1 Matheson, they always bring a solid lineup. Like they always have good drivers. Like not saying the other ones are bad, but like they are always tough to beat. The 52 entry, like they're always one of the tough competitors in the LMP2 class.
Yeah, mind you, this year we have some teams that travel overseas, despite the barriers to compete in this year's edition. So the statement is, I can win races and championships, not just because I'm here showing up, but because we can actually beat the other cars in class. That has to be the mindset. And Ben Keating, even though he's turning 50 this year, unbelievable. Was part of the driving duo because remember, only two drivers were allowed per car in the qualifying race. Yeah. That is a brilliant drive for sure. And Ben Keating, I believe he's driving 2 cars in the 24-hour race like he did last year. High Class Racing number 20 finished second in the qualifying 100. Now, the Orca's, of course, the usual choice for LMP2 cars. They finished strong. Tower Motorsport by Starworks, number 8, finished third in an Orca. Orca's finished 4th and 5th in class. Racing Team Netherlands 4th, and Dragon Speed USA 5th. And Dragon Speed USA won the Rolex 24 in that class last year and 2 years ago.
And I was about to say Ben Keating is driving another car. The other car he's driving is in the GTD class, the 97 TF Sport entry. And also, Ben Keating is turning 50 on August 18th this year. He's 49.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's always a competitive driver. I've seen him, I know that most of the races it's him and another driver in that 52, but he shows his speed in that car.
I want to see Ben Keating, or not Ben Keating, but who were the 3 guys that ran for CP Racing in the Dubai 24 Hours last week. They were leading the GT3 AM class before their car failed. Charles Putman, Shane Lewis, Charles Espinlab, John, I forgot his last name, but he was the 4th guy. They were all American drivers around the age of 50 or older, and they were driving like they were driving like brand new. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's like people say, "Oh, only young drivers are fast." No, older drivers could be fast too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At this
well
point,
done.
It's not all about age. It's all about skill.
Yeah, you need your skills, because people think, "Oh, it's easy. I could do that." Like somebody that's just playing video games thinks they could do it, but on a controller like this is not real compared to racing an IMSA car.
Yeah.
So you need skills, and you need to be really
experience.
Yes.
Yes. Speaking of skills, let's go into the next class. That was the GTLM class, finishing 16th overall, and first in class was the number 4 Corvette. Corvettes finished 1 and 2. The 4 drivers are the 2 drivers that ran for Corvette in the qualifying race. The number 4 car, Nick Tandy, also a Porsche factory driver who was part of the Spa 24-hour winning lineup last year.
Yeah.
And Nick Tandy and Alexander Sims, Formula E driver.
Yep.
Were the 2 in the number 4 Corvette that finished first in the GTLM class. In fact, the other driver sharing that car will be not Antonio's in the other car, Tommy Milner.
Yeah.
So the other car that the Corvette field that finished second in the GTLM category was
the number 3.
And number 3, Nicky Katzberg, Jordan Taylor. They drove the car. Antonio Garcia, of course, was the odd man out for that qualifying race. Strong, but the real challenge is Saturday.
Yeah, because remember the Corvette C8R's first event, and both cars had issues. The 3 had an accident with the 98, but finished the race. The 4 had oil leak. That the 4 Corvette, I remember that. Corvette didn't have a good start, but then they came back at the second race at Daytona when they did that event when they resumed IMSA. Then they started winning. Right after that, they started winning races. They want to carry that momentum in the Daytona. Right.
But you also have to remember, they were surprisingly not in the 24 Hours of Le Mans last year.
Yeah.
Due to financial reasons, the Corvette factory team had to pull out. And I believe they're under new management now. There's been some changes in business within the last few months.
But Corvette's going to try to get a win at Daytona. They won that IMSA WeatherTech 240 when the race after, the first race returning from the pandemic for IMSA. But they want to win the big one. The Rolex 24 is... People want to win that race, it's a race that a lot of drivers that are sports car drivers want to put that on their list.
It's a grand achievement, without a question.
Absolutely. So, I think they could get the job done as well.
They could with their speed and skill.
So there were only 6 cars in class, so we'll run down the order here. Third place was actually the leading car in class, the number 79 WeatherTech Racing Porsche 911 RSR GTE. That car will be filled with factory drivers for Porsche. Do you remember the factory team that Porsche provided last year?
Oh, yeah.
Will sit out this year.
Oh yeah, I remember it was Kevin Estrig and Cooper McNeil who were in the car for that qualifying race, and then the other two drivers is Richard Leeds and Gian Maria Bruni. They're in that number 79 for WeatherTech Racing entry.
And just to finish running down the lineup before we go to the next class, fourth was the Risi Competizione Ferrari number 62. They had problems, but managed to finish the race 21st overall with tire problems. Fifth place in class was the number 25 BMW Team RLL, as well as the other BMW number 24, sixth place and last in class. So it's a tight, intense battle that will be settled this weekend. Yeah. I wish there were more entries. Aston Martin. I think Aston Martin, they pulled out of GTE racing. They won't even race in the WEC anymore.
What?
Yeah, you don't remember?
Well, there's other Aston teams with the Aston cars, like the number 23,
Well, we'll see if
97.
Privately owned Aston Martins, but the factory Aston Martin racing team.
I don't know. Well, at least their manufacturer's still there.
Yeah, customer teams, they'll be present, no doubt. Factory drivers, they'll be there. But the factory team, GTE racing is a little bit under a cloud of rain. They've been under a rain cloud for the last few years.
Yeah, and they ran last year in the Rolex. The 98 Aston ran last year, I remember.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know they fielded the GT3.
No, they ran the Aston Martin racing team had their 98 entry, and that they clashed with the Corvette number 3 at one point in the race.
Oh, yes. I have to do some memory.
I remember.
2 more classes to review before we proceed. The GT Daytona class, how about veterans? I mean, it seems like veteran drivers just have the upper hand. The winningest driver in IMSA competition of all time, Bill Auberlen, who in his 50s continued to succeed as a driver with Turner Motorsport and BMW with that M6 GT3, and Robbie Foley, the co-driver, they were behind the wheel of that car. Now in the race, you'll see other drivers in that car, such as Colton Herta and Aiden Reed.
Yeah, what's that, 96? I remember just seeing them. They were so fast yesterday. They're just pulling away from the other cars in that class. I'm like, holy wow! Like, I didn't expect. I know they have a good lineup, but I didn't expect them to pull away from them. Some races, the 96 does good in some certain races. They're good in the sprint races, but sometimes they struggle a little bit during some of the races at Daytona. But they actually really did good. They really want to bring that momentum back. They want to bring the momentum heading into...
they have the momentum. They have the drivers, and they just have 24 hours and a chunk of competition. The biggest chunk of cars in a class, of course, is the GT Daytona class. So,
yeah.
And that's how it is.
Then who got second again? I'm trying to remember.
Second place in the GTD class was the FAF Motorsports Porsche number 9. Canadian team that has stood out last year because of travel restrictions with COVID-19. Made their long-awaited return. Now, it seems like they'll only run the Michelin Endurance Cup for where it stands.
Yeah, but we'll have to see, because the next race after the Sebring for the Michelin Endurance Cup, then they have the race at Mid-Ohio. That's the first sprint race of the season, like non-endurance race, is that race at Mid-Ohio in May, which at least that 9 team, they had Zachary Robichon and Lawrence Ventor in that number 9. Then they also have their other 2 drivers, Lars Kern and Matt Campbell, drivers.
Matt Campbell, the factory driver.
Yep, in the number 9, which I remember FAF Motorsports. 2019, they had a shot to win. I remember they had a shot to win the Rolex in 2019. On the restart, they ended up crashing. in
And
2019.
they weren't the only ones.
Oh yeah, the restart there, that was so bad. Yeah, but at least they're back. Gonna try to get the win in their class. They have speed in that 9 Porsche. And third place in class for them was the
GRT Grasser Racing Team number 111 Lamborghini Huracan GT3. In fact, they came from Dubai. Actually, one of the very few teams that ran both the Dubai 24 hours and the Daytona 24 hours this year.
Yeah, Rolf Einichen and Mirko Bortolotti were in that number 111. They had a strong car. They were really up front. And they had their other 2 drivers, Sten Schotthorst and Marco Mappelli. Those are the other 2 in that number 1.
Drivers.
Yep.
And Mirko has 2 wins in the class with the Lamborghini in prior years. Remember, he went to Audi last year and returned back to Lamborghini this past weekend at Dubai.
Oh, yeah.
And 4th place was the 14 Vasser Sullivan Racing Lexus RCF GT3. 5th place was the Winter Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 R57. Now let's talk about the new class, the LMP3 category. Under some scrutiny, especially by the GTLM drivers for possibly impeding in the progress during the race itself because of straight line speed and amateur drivers behind the wheel. When you have the best of the GTE drivers in the class just a little bit slower, it adds some of the intensity with the inexperience, and not all the drivers were inexperienced, but
some inexperience. Some from some of these drivers, I realized some of them are directly from the IMSA Prototype Challenge series. Some of them are
accessible class.
The winner of that class, who was it? Was it
27th overall? It was the Mueller Motorsport America entry, team based in Germany and in the States.
Yeah, Moritz Kranz and Lawrence Hoare were the drivers, and their other driver, Kenton Cook, and then they have a driver to be determined as their fourth.
Just those 3, as far as I'm concerned. But they might add a 4th driver. And in terms of a class like the LMP3, I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
But the thing about that, actually, a fun fact about the 2 drivers, Moritz Kranz and Lawrence Hoare, they actually won the IMSA Prototype Challenge race at Daytona in their entry in the IMSA Prototype Challenge. They actually won overall. Those 2 drivers, they won over.
Good practice right there.
Yeah, and they won over the number. What was the 2nd place in that class?
Are we talking an LMP3 in this race?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, yes. Mind you, the controversy is the fact that the winning car in LMP3 finished 27th overall in a 100-minute race. 2nd place, finishing 31st overall, was the 47 Motorsport Duquesne D08 number 7 with the drivers Ryan Norman and Mark Kavan driving that car. So Mark Kavan will be 60 next month.
Yeah.
And Ryan Norman, he'll be 23 in 2 months. Just shows you the age disparity in sports car racing. It's so broad.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a milestone.
Yep. So they finished in 2nd place in class. 3rd place was the 54 car Autosport Ligier JSP320. 4th place was the number 33 Sam Creech Motorsport Ligier, and 5th place was the number 38 Performance Tech Motorsport Ligier JSP320. Now I've seen that team race in the European Le Mans Series last year, so there's some experience there.
Also, Performance Tech was in the LMP2 class last year in the IMSA series. They moved their program to LMP3s.
Much cheaper.
They used. Yeah, because in LMP2, that 38 sometimes struggled compared to the. I remember some races they were like 10 laps behind the number 52 for PR1. Like, they were behind them, so they decided, like, oh, we'll go to LMP3 because in the LMP3, it's more cheaper than LMP2s. Because you gotta have money. You can't just run like, it's not NASCAR where you can start and park. No, sports car racing is not NASCAR where you can start and park.
No,
No.
You're in it to win it.
Yeah, no, it's not NASCAR where, like, hey, like, some of the back marker teams would just pull on pit road after a couple laps. Like,
Yeah.
no, it's not like that in sports car racing.
Yep, it's go all out or go home.
Yep.
So 49 cars. I wish I could say 50 because the number just sounds so good. 50 cars overall.
But
We were
49.
so close, but 49 cars. That's a major
But-
jump from last year. We had 37 overall, a record low.
But Joseph, only 47 finished. The 48th and 49th did not even start.
They're still in the 24-hour race.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, the Riley Motorsport number 74 and the 64 Team TGM did not start the race, so they're automatically put to the back of the field. They're already they're going to be put in the back for the start because they didn't even complete a lap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and look at all the classes, make our predictions. I have the entry list. Actually, it's in the
Yep, I have it right here.
chat.
Yep. I always
Yeah, you have it there. So
yeah, and I already know my picks already, like, because I was thinking in my head early, instead of always like, who am I going to pick? I picked advanced this time. I picked earlier, so
it's
I don't
tough to make a prediction. I don't even have mine ready, but I'll make predictions to the best of my ability. We got a long race.
Yep, 24 hours.
But before we go ahead and look at the history of this classic sports car endurance race, let's take a look back at some of the history of this event. So this is the first race of 12 races in the 2021 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
Yep.
As of January 25th, this is also the first of 4 races in the Endurance Cup Championship. So be on the lookout for that. Last year, it was Wayne Taylor racing in a Cadillac DPI with drivers Kamui Kobayashi, Scott Dixon, Ranger Van der Zandt, and Ryan Briscoe.
Yep. They had a good squad last year. I remember that when they had a penalty. They had actually a penalty. They had issues. Then they sped again.
Yeah.
They were caught a lap down. Then they got back on the lead lap, and then they ended up winning. So they
Talk about the uncertain amount of events. From getting a penalty, from being a lap down to working your way back up to the lead and winning the race.
Yeah, I remember. Like, it was literally that team got the free pass. Remember, around 5 hours.
Well, they don't get the free pass; they just get a waiver on, or usually they just make up their own laps.
Yeah, but the thing, they got a caution. Remember the 19 GRT team? They caught on fire. That's how they got their lap back. Was because of their fire.
Yes, safety car.
Yeah, the safety car came out, which really helped them, and they charged from the back to the front and took the lead. Like, they really did good. They did mistakes, but they rebounded.
Statistically speaking, they're the best team in terms of winning overall in this DPI era. But now they have more challenges. New drivers, returning drivers, a new manufacturer, new power plant.
Yeah.
We go from GM and Cadillac to Honda and Acura.
Yep.
The return of Jordan Taylor. And I think we'll have an interesting feel. And not Jordan Taylor. I mean Ricky Taylor. We have the ELMS champion and WEC LMP2 champion Felipe Albuquerque. We have Indy 500 champions Alexander Rossi, Elio Castroneves. Remember, Elio won actually behind the wheel of a Penske Acura. He won the season-long driving championship for the DPI category and overall. Let's look at the history of the race. So this race began back in 1962 as just a 500-kilometer race that was won by Dan Gurney in the Lotus 19B Coventry Climax as a 3-hour duration race. In 1966, the first ever running of the 24 Hours of Daytona, well, the first ever 24-hour length race of this sports car classic was in 1966. And if you've seen the movie, yes, it was Ken Miles and Lloyd Ruby for Shelby American Inc. in the Ford GT40, the also special Ford GT40 car that won the Le Mans 24 Hours that year.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting list, and I had to do a lot of research to find out these drivers that have won multiple times in this race. 2 drivers have the most wins in the overall category for the 24 Hours of Daytona, and that goes to Scott Pruitt and Hurley Haywood. Now, Hurley Haywood, just one of the greatest sports car drivers of all time, and Scott Pruitt, without a doubt. 5 total wins for those 2 drivers, respectively.
Wow.
Then these 4 drivers have won 4 times. The late Pedro Rodriguez, who was at one point the only Mexican driver to win a Formula One Grand Prix until Sergio Perez a few months ago.
Yeah.
The late Bob Wallach, Peter Gregg, and Rolf Stommelman, 4 wins respectively in the 24 Hours of Daytona. This list has tons of drivers with 3 wins in the Rolex 24 Daytona, including Brian Redmond, Andy Wallace, Butch Leinsinger, Derek Bell, Juan Pablo Montoya, Memo Rojas, Christian Fittipaldi, Joao Barbosa, and Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon joined that club last year. And here are the drivers with 2 wins in the 24 Hours of Daytona overall. Those drivers include Ken Miles, Lloyd Ruby, AJ Foyt, Al Holbert, Al Unser Jr., Jan Lammers, John Paul Jr., Elliott Forbes Robinson, Mauro Baldi, Didier Ties, Wayne Taylor, Terry Borcello, Scott Sharp, Max Angelelli, Jordan Taylor, Kamui Kobayashi, and Ranger van der Zandt. Those 2 drivers joined the club of 2-time winners last year. So constructor victories. Porsche, of course, Porsche would have the lead in constructor wins. 18 times they've won overall in the Rolex 24 from 1968 all the way to 2003. At one point, they were on a long winning streak here from 1977 to 83, and from from 85 to 87. They seem nearly undefeated. Riley ended up winning 10 times. They are second on the list. Ferrari and Dallara share. Riley has 10 wins. Ferrari and Dallara share 5 wins each. Dallara, of course, the constructor providing the chassis for the DPIs in the last 3 years. 5 wins from Dallara, 5 wins from Ferrari. I would hope to see Ferrari come back in an overall winning sports car effort. That would be something special.
Yeah.
Riley and Scott, 3 wins from them, and then these 3 constructors have 2 wins, including Ford, Jaguar, and Nissan. And here are the constructors that have won once in the 24 Hours of Daytona. Of course, Lotus in the first ever 3-hour race that was won by Dan Gurney, Lola, BMW, Mark, Toyota, Kremer, Dodge, Chevrolet, Doran, Coyote, and Ligier are on that list of prestigious winners. Engine manufacturers, it's even better for Porsche. They won 18 times as a constructor, but they have won 22 times as an engine manufacturer overall in the 24 Hours of Daytona from 1968 all the way to 2010. And they went on a 10-year winning streak from 1977 to 1987 as an overall winning engine. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and the consistency these guys are doing had through those years is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
Now, who stopped Porsche in the progress? Well, actually, before Porsche, became a threat to win year in and year out in the Rolex 24, it was Ford. Of course, 6 times Ford won from 1965 all the way to 2015.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I remember about Ford. I remember now.
Ferrari 5 wins, Cadillac 4 wins, 4 wins in a row as an engine manufacturer from the 2017 all the way to 2020.
Oh,
They
yeah.
beat their General Motors counterpart last year.
Oh, I just remembered about Cadillac's 4 wins. Wayne Taylor won 3 of those. The only other one was the number 5 Action Express, the Mustang sampling, won in 2018, while Wayne Taylor won 2017, 2019, and 2020.
Right. Like I mentioned about Cadillac's GM counterpart, Chevrolet has 3 wins, joining BMW and Lexus on that list. Lexus won 3 in a row with Chip Ganassi Racing, 2006 to 2008. Chevrolet 3 times years apart. BMW last one overall, actually with Chip Ganassi Racing in 2013. 3 manufacturers have 2 wins, including another GM brand, Pontiac, then Nissan and Jaguar.
Pontiac?
Yeah, with the Daytona prototype in 2004 and 2005.
Oh, I didn't know
Country,
that.
Climax, Toyota, Oldsmobile, Dodge, Judd, and Honda engines with 1 win overall in the 24 Hours of Daytona. Just the list of variety, the brands, the scenery.
Yeah.
Whoa. You said Pontiac. So
It's
what year?
Pontiac Daytona prototype.
Yeah.
When did they win in that? Like, what years did that Pontiac won?
04 and 05.
Okay, that's interesting because I remember they left NASCAR at one point. I remember they left NASCAR. I remember when they did leave NASCAR, and then I didn't even know that Pontiac even. I didn't even know that Pontiac even entered.
Pontiac had they had a pretty decent sports car team in the past, but I mean, listen, Oldsmobile won the 1996 24 Hours of Daytona, so General Motors has their hands in glory
Yeah, it's
in
like
motorsport, which is nothing new.
yeah, it's like yeah. And I remember people saying, "Oh, GM has too many brands." I remember
EA of cars, so
I remember people were like, "Oh, Chevrolet, oh, Oldsmobile, oh, Pontiac." Oh well, at least they never had the. Well, it's like that one. They also had if people didn't remember when NASCAR had Buick, like stuff like that. Like people don't expect, and people always complain, why does Chevy have too many? GM have too many.
my question is, why is Holden folded like that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Well, Chip Ganassi Racing, as I mentioned, they lead with teams in terms of wins by a team 6 times. They last won in, I think it was 2015. They won in 2015. Their 6th win, and that was, of course, with the lineup. In fact, one driver, Scott Dixon, will be part of that lineup in 2021, but he was accompanied by Tony Kanaan, Jamie McMurray, and Kyle Larson.
Yep, I remember that.
So, I mean, right now there are rumors about Chip Ganassi Racing's lineup because apparently Marcus Ericsson is not on the list.
Yeah, and he was on the list he was on the list, the original list. If people don't remember, he was. That's interesting.
And whatever that means, we'll eventually find out. It's just, we hope for the best. I mean, knowing the current situation with life, just hope that Ericsson's all right and that he will race in the 24 Hours of Daytona. But the other drivers, Kevin Magnussen, fresh out of Formula One, Ranger van der Zand, just a really fast driver. Scott Dixon, the 6-time IndyCar champion. I gotta get used to saying that. 6 times IndyCar champion.
I just realized Ranger van der Zand and Scott Dixon came from the same team from last year. They were running for the number 10 entry. They were running for Wayne Taylor Racing. And it's the first time. It's weird. 2 of the teammates, which is van der Zand and Dixon, who were teammates at Wayne Taylor Racing, are now at the same entry in the number 01 for Ganassi.
Yes.
Is it-
Rangers is actually a factory driver for Honda, so it makes sense to be the Acura.
But he's in a Cadillac this year.
Oh, you saying a Cadillac? Wait a second.
Yeah, he's in the
Oh,
other
yes,
one.
I meant the
Cadillac. Yeah, he was in,
Champion Kawasaki Racing isn't a Cadillac. I meant to say
yeah,
the GT World Challenge
yeah,
Intercontinental
yeah.
Series.
Because he was in the 10 Cadillac with Dixon in the running of in that during the Rolex 24 last year. Both of them are now the same are paired up, but at Ganassi this year.
Yeah. And also, let's highlight another entry. I think this one deserves some more attention. That's number 5, Mustang sampling with JDC Miller Motorsports Cadillac.
They have the all French lineup, 3 drivers there. They have Tristan Vautier, Loic Duval, and Sebastien Bourdais. That is their lineup. All French lineup, fast drivers. They have a good lineup. That 5 car.
Yes. Tristan Vautier in 2018 finished 2nd overall in the Bathurst 12 hours, and I know he's still somewhat new to the sports cars. It's been about 6 years, but he's taken the step up into the prototypes. Loic Duval. What can I say about Loic Duval? He's an outstanding driver that has won the 24 Hours of Le Mans overall in 2013 for Audi. Just an outstanding record. His Formula E stats were brief, but
Yeah.
I think Loic Duval's experience racing all those years will pay off, possibly. And there are only 3 drivers in the line. Will that make a major difference? We'll have to see. But, I've got my eyes on him.
Yeah, and also the 3rd driver, Sebastien Bourdais, the 3rd driver of that entry.
Perhaps one of the best open-wheel drivers that has stepped foot in American open-wheel competition. 4-time IndyCar champion that has a successful record in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's finished 2nd overall 3 years and won in class. So just put that in perspective. I think don't be surprised. He'll probably stand up on the podium. He's a class winner of the Sebring 12 Hours 2006. So 12 hours of taming a difficult, bumpy racetrack that even 15 years later has not changed.
Yeah, it's true. It's still bumpy.
Yeah, it is. But will the endurance pay off? The endurance racing pay off? I think it can, but only time will tell. And plus, let's look at his prior history at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He did win overall in 2014 with Action Express, but that was in the DP era.
What? You said Le Mans.
I mean Daytona, I meant.
I was about to say Action Express competed at Le Mans.
Listen, I made a mistake. That was actually Daytona.
Yeah.
Actually, the very first race of the redesigned championship. Finished on the podium. In fact, his record was pretty bad at the Daytona 24. Just looking at his stats, podium position. Very next year, he won in class for the 4GT. Chip Ganassi Racing in 2017, followed that up with a runner-up in class in 2018, a podium overall last year.
Yeah.
I think he'll really complete the lineup here. There's just 3 drivers. I know we won't spend too much time on this one class, but this is where we discuss the overall winner.
Yeah, because the only way there's no overall winner here is if all of them retire, which is unlikely that all of them retire. It will have to take many mechanical failures and weird
We're gonna need something like Petit Le Mans 2015,
something like that. Some crazy racing.
and GTE winning overall.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. No, it's gonna be DPI.
Right, because we have this thing called BOP, and it's there to make our lives miserable. Okay. So we covered Chip Ganassi and JDC Miller Mustang sampling. We also covered Mazda earlier.
Yeah.
They have 3 drivers that are pretty good. Oliver Jarvis, just a very successful touring car driver. He was part of the A1 Grand Prix back when it existed and finished third in the Drivers' Championship twice, representing Great Britain.
Right.
His DTM records were solid, but finished on the overall podium in Le Mans 4 times. He was part of the Jackie Chan DC Racing squad that finished second overall in an LMP2 car in one class. John Bomarito has been around for Mazda for many years. Harry Tinknell was part of the 4GT program years ago. And actually, he was part of the Le Mans LMGTE Pro winning team for Aston Martin. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah. And then you got the last driver, Oliver Jarvis. Which Oliver Jarvis was actually in the other car last year. He drove the 77, which that Mazda has shut down if you didn't know. He's now in the 55 entry, which Jarvis is a fast driver. Yeah, Oliver Jarvis, a fast driver. I've seen Oliver Jarvis qualify. I've seen him. He's fast. He's a fast driver.
Yeah, no question. And in terms of Mazda, they have never won the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah, they haven't.
Even back in their rotary days. Well, overall, we're discussing.
Yeah, they haven't won overall, and they're. I remember, what year was it? Oh, 2019. Remember 2019, Joseph? The heartbreak.
They were fast.
Man.
They qualified up front, and both of them had issues and DNF'd out of the race. Oh, I remember that heartbreaking race for both Mazdas in 2019.
Yeah, that second car caught fire in the bus stop chicane. That was just as bad as you can.
Yeah, the 55 retired first, and then the pole-sitting car, the 77, caught on fire in the bus stop. Like, that just sucked to be a Mazda fan during that weekend.
Right. We're going to run down the list, with the other classes. As I mentioned, the Wayne Taylor Racing. We're Acuras this time around.
Yeah.
With Castroneves, Philippe Albuquerque, LMP2 champion from United Autosport. Alexander Rossi, Indy 500 champion, 3-time Indy 500 champion, and reigning IMSA champion, Elliott Castroneves, and Ricky Taylor, part of the family team.
Well, and also Ricky was in that car that won the championship last year for Penske. He was in that 7 car with Castroneves. And Rossi also ran the endurance races in that number 7, which they're all at Wayne Taylor, and Philippe Albuquerque is also part of that squad.
He's the LMS champion. He won the title with Phil Hansen last year.
Yeah, which also about this team, they won 3 out of the last. Wait. They
won 3 out of the last 4 years. Correct.
Yeah.
But this year they're in a completely new car, and that is where the challenge begins.
Yeah, but the Acura, they were with Cadillac, but the Acuras are different. Obviously, like, they got to learn how it drives because
they're pretty good on the sprint schedule, but the endurance schedule, that's where they struggled.
But it's like Wayne Taylor last year, they were bad. Like Wayne Taylor Racing, when they had their Cadillac, they were not good in the sprint races. But at the endurance races, they were always a contender in every endurance race.
They won the Endurance Cup last year.
No, they actually lost.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, because they DNF'd They ended up finishing many laps down.
I have to do some memory digging for that. But then again, they should be just as much of a threat to win this race like the others in this category. And we'll leave it on the Acura discussion for this next team before we wrap up the overall conversation, the overall winning conversation, and that is, of course, the number 60 Meyer Shank Racing with Curb Agajani and Acura ARX 05 with the Honda Power car with 4 drivers in the lineup. And we've seen a lot of experience with these individuals, including AJ Allmendinger, who won for this team 9 years ago overall. In 2012, AJ Allmendinger was part of the team, included the late Justin Wilson, Justin Wilson, John Pugh, and Oswaldo Nedre. A 4-driver lineup in a Riley MK Ford Daytona prototype. Now, 9 years later, AJ's still there, competing for overall wins. The class moved up from GT Daytona to the top DPI class. AJ Allmendinger, Dane Cameron. Now, Dane Cameron, a very successful GT driver, won the title last year with Elio Castro Neves, and he might be a threat to win, but there has to be one driver without question that will be a factor, and that is, of course, Juan Pablo Montoya from Bogota, Colombia, age 45, one of the most.
Oh, okay. I'm an idiot. I just remembered Cadillac, the 10 did win the Endurance Cup. They lost the overall championship by only a couple points. That's what I was thinking about. So they did win the Endurance Cup, but they lost the main championship by 2 points. I remember. If they didn't get spun by the Mazda, they would have actually. They had a better shot of winning the championship. They just had to beat the other, because remember the 7 had issues in the race. I remember they had issues. If they didn't get hit by the Mazda 77, they would have won it. But because of the contact and a blown tire, basically took them out of the main championship. But they won the endurance by 3 points. Yeah. No, 6 points. 42 to 36. So yeah, 6 points.
Yes, but yeah, Juan Pablo Montoya. We were in the discussion of Meyer Shank Racing with Curb Agajanian. Montoya, of course, one of the most decorated race car drivers of all time. Undoubtedly, just have so much success in his career. Even behind the wheel of sports cars, 3 overall wins in the Rolex 24 at Daytona. All of them with Chip Ganassi Racing.
Yeah.
Most recently, 2013, but he's also stood on the podium twice during that time, 2009 and 2011, second place finishes. Daytona is not stepped on the podium since. That's other than 2013. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is.
But it shows you how skilled of a driver he is. And one check that he's not made off that box is a 24 Hours of Le Mans win. I mean, he's got plenty of years ahead. Even though being 45, that's...
Yeah, you were about to say 25.
No, he drives like he's 25, but...
He's going to be 46 this year. He's born in 75, the same age as Jimmy Johnson, which Jimmy Johnson is obviously in the race, and his number 48 entry.
Right. Olivier Pla, French driver who in 2013 finished second in the LMP2 class with Oak Racing And he's never been on the Le Mans podium ever since, but in the 24 Hours of Daytona, he did step on the podium last year for Mazda in the DPI class, second place overall. So well done for Pla. I think they're going to have to do a little more work. I don't know. I think they can win, but I just don't see if they have that same kind of grit as the other next two teams do. And those belong to Action Express Racing. We'll first talk about the Cadillac Racing number 48, and then we'll get into the 31 because they're in two different scenarios here. And we'll start with the 48, and that, of course, is Jimmy Johnson, the 7-time NASCAR Cup champion, who is undoubtedly one of the greatest stock car racing drivers of all time. Daytona 500 champion twice. The list goes on. The 24 Hours of Daytona, Jimmy Johnson finished second overall twice in the Rolex 24, 2005 and 2008.
Yeah.
Take that in consideration for you Johnson fans.
Yeah, Kamui Kobayashi. He's the second driver of that entry, which Kamui Kobayashi, he used to run for Wayne Taylor last year. He's won the Rolex 24.
He won it last year.
But who was in the car in 2019? Because I remember.
No, it was Alonso.
Alonso, but there was who was the other?
He was in the car last year. He can go 3 for 3.
Yeah, he won the last two. He was in the entry, but he's trying to get a third 3 for 3 in that 48 entry. Which Kamui Kobayashi last year, he was one of the drivers that
put up some of the fastest laps.
Yeah, to get after their their speeding penalty early in the race, he brought the car back, like charging through the field, and he's gonna help that 48 car. He's gonna be really fast.
Absolutely. The next driver, we'll get the Indy 500 champion, 2016 IndyCar champion, and it's just stellar numbers for Simon Pagenaud. 2011 Le Mans 24-hour. His drive in the Peugeot was just unbelievable. Chasing down an Audi. Just too short. I mean, if that race had another 10 minutes, I'm sure he could have given Peugeot one more win. But hey, Peugeot's coming back, so so good for them. But in the Daytona 24 hours, his numbers are pretty good, but he's never stood on the podium, except for 2015 in a Corvette.
Okay, but he has a good shot of being on the podium this time. He has a really good shot of being on the podium overall because he has experience. He has good teammates that have experience, and they just don't want. They want to have they don't want to always have like issues. They just want to make sure they manage the race because you can't win the race in the first hour, but you could lose it in the first hour. Because you can't win the race. Like if you're leading after 1 hour, we're gonna win. No, you still have 23.
Speaking of winners, how about the 2013 DTM champion Mike Rockenfeller?
Yeah,
just the 24 Hours of Le Mans winner, 2010, 2 class wins, including the overall win in 2010. In the 24 Hours of Daytona, Rockefeller has a really interesting statistics. I know we got to look at the other classes soon, and I don't want to take too much time, but at first go around, 3rd overall, 2nd in class, 3rd overall, 2006, at Daytona. 2010, 1st overall. He won the race with Action Express, ironically, and he moved to the GTLM class and finished 2nd, barely losing that race against a team car in GTLM for Corvette. Last time on the podium with Corvette, 2018, but now he switched teams. now we look at the other car. That's the number 31. This is the car that has topped the speed charts in time trials, in the qualifying race, in practice sessions. We have world champions behind the wheel of this car. Mike Conway, just to remind you. Remember, Mike Conway is one of the best at setting lap times, and he wasn't even doing the lap times.
Yeah, because Mike Conway
was Felipe Nasr
and Pipo Derani, they were the two in that car during the qualifying race. You got, you have Mike Conway, who's Toyota. He races for Toyota Gazoo Racing in the World Endurance Championship. You got Felipe Nasr, fast driver. He's always contending.
Mike Conway has finished on the podium for 4 out of the last 5 24 hours of Le Mans overall with Toyota Gazoo Racing. And 3 of them included second-place finishes. And also in the 24 Hours of Daytona, he finished second overall in 2018 for that same team that he's going to drive for this year. So there you go. You're mentioning Felipe Nasr from Brazil. 29 career points in Formula One. Just a fast driver. Nasr is 3 for 3 in the 24 Hours of Daytona in terms of podiums. He finished third in 2012 and then second in 2018 and again in 2019, all overall. He's a fast driver, but then again, it's a 24-hour race. This is where I think Pipo Derani comes into play. I think Pipo Derani has the speed of a Formula One world champion.
Yeah.
He is a 24 Hours of Daytona winner as well.
Yeah.
It was the 2016 race in his very first debut with Tequila Patron.
Oh yeah, them.
Extreme Speed Motorsports.
I remember them now.
Yeah, they finished first overall with a Ligier JSP2 with the old specs, and of course second overall in the flooded 2019 race with the same team, Whelen Engineering Action Express Racing Cadillac, and leaves us with, of course, Chase Elliott, the reigning NASCAR Cup champion.
Yep.
And let's not forget how impressive Chase Elliott is on the road courses. Elliott has won 11 times in the NASCAR Cup Series, and half of those were on road courses, including his very first win, which was at Watkins Glen International in the 2018 Cup race.
Yep, Chase Elliott. I just remembered, Chase Elliott in that number 31 entry, which I know people are like, because Chase is in the race, he's going to win. No, that doesn't work. I know Chase is good on road courses, but you got IMSA cars are not the same as stock.
He's in a prototype here. This isn't a stock car with the 4-speed manual.
No, it's paddle shifters on the steering wheels. Also, if you don't know, in IMSA, you deal with slower cars like LMP2s, LMP3s now, GTLMs, and GT Daytona cars. It's not NASCAR with lap cars. It's that at a road course, you don't catch many lap cars here because it's 24 hours, and you got slower classes. You got to make sure you don't want to hit. You want to make sure you could try to get out of the way of, to try to get out into another line to get by them, because we've seen slower traffic cars get hit by some of the fast guys.
It's part of endurance racing.
Yeah.
The slower cars they pop up, you pass them. It's a mental challenge. I think Chase Elliott has what it takes. He'll be a team player for sure. But in the end, your prediction for the overall winning team for the 2021 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona. Who was that?
My pick. Okay, this is one of the how can I phrase this without giving out right away? This team, they have won many races. In the last 4 years, they've won 3 out of the last 4. But this year, they have a new challenge, switching from the Cadillacs to the Acuras. My pick is the number 10 Wayne Taylor Racing Acura, driven by Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, Alexander Rossi, and Elio Castroneves will win for Acura in the Rolex 24.
They weren't as fast as their sister car, but they have the veteran experience of all 4 drivers. With nothing but enriching experience and a popular backing. They have all the reasons to win this race. It's car number 48, Action Express Alley Cadillac Racing, with Jimmy Johnson, Kamui Kobayashi, Simon Pagino, and Mike Rockefeller. It will be a popular win, one that was just like what we saw in 2017.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm like, faster than their teammate, slower than their team. I'm like, oh, the 48. I just remembered because that's the only team. That's their only teammate. All the other teams don't have teammates except the 31 and the 48.
I just realized that actually adds to the intensity of this race. Now that you might not see team orders. All right, LMP2 predictions. We're not going to spend too much time in this class, but we will highlight a few cars. Which cars do you want to look at before we make our predictions here?
For me, one of the cars to look at is the number 52, the PR1 Matheson entry. Anytime they go to a racetrack, they're always guaranteed to get a podium, like in their class, because that entry, they actually won the the LMP2 championship in
LMP2, by default.
Yeah, because they entered every race, and sometimes they were the only car there, but they have experience. Ben Keating, really experienced driver in that 52. Mikael Jensen, he's an experienced sports car driver. Then you got Scott Huffaker, also experienced. And also Nicholas Lapierre, experienced driver from the World Endurance Championship. That entry, they have experience in that car, which really helps them. Plus Ben Keating's experience in that entry will help some of the other drivers that it's the first time in that car. He could help those drivers, which is really a good help. But they have Keating leading basically the team.
And mind you, he's driving 2 cars in this race, so will that affect his performance? Well, he might have less brakes. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, and also just looking through another. We also have. There's also Dragon Speed number 81. That's another one I want to highlight. They have 2 cars this year, but their 81 entry has decent drivers. You have Rob Hodes, Garrett Grist, Renus VK. He won the Rookie of the Year in IndyCar in that number 81. And then you got Ben Hanley. That's decent lineup right there.
Dragon Speed, they won actually the last 2 years. The first year with separation from the DPIs and LMP2s, won by Dragon Speed, and then they won again last year. And now they field 2 cars, they can easily go for 3 for 3. But I don't think that's going to happen, believe it or not. And that's where this is where I think the experience will play in. Racing Team Netherlands.
Oh, I see them. Yeah, Racing Team Netherlands. They have experience in that entry.
Yes, Charles Mielse, a driver with not too much experience, 19 years old, Super Formula.
Yep.
And then Guido Venergaard.
He has a lot of experience.
Yes, a veteran, to say the least. And Ja Van Uytert, part of the powerhouse United Autosports team that ran in LMP2s last year in the ELMS and in the WEC.
And also you got Fritz Vannerd. He's also. Yep.
I think picking Racing Team Netherlands would be valuable, especially since they traveled overseas during a pandemic to run this race.
Yeah.
You're going to be working twice as hard.
Yeah.
LMP3s, this is where it seems like the predictions might be a little tougher, but
because it's just like LMP3s did struggle during the Motul Pole Award 100 if you didn't notice, but the thing about them is just it was raining at the start, which really didn't help their plans. But they gotta just get the experience with the cars, because having your first race in the rain is harder to race. And I know it's sports cars, it's not stock cars, but still, racing in the rain in a sports car is still tough compared to racing in the dry.
I think this might be interesting, but I'm gonna go with the gentleman drivers. This team that's been around for quite some time. Core Autosport, the team owned by 55-year-old John Bennett, who brought Core Autosport into life and proceeded to some great things, even with the Porsche factory support briefly.
Yeah.
But you have Matthew McMurray, an underrated prototype driver. George Kurtz, who is 50 years old and races for fun. And Colin Brown, who has brilliant skills behind the wheel of a prototype. And this is LMP3 we're discussing here.
Yeah, and also my pick for LMP3 is also the Core Autosport 54. And if you missed, my pick for LMP2 was the 52. But the 54, I feel like they have good drivers. I know LMP3 is a new thing in the sports car, the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, but they're going to have some practices. So they're basically going to get the cars dialed up, how they like the car before the race, which is going to really help, that they could dial up the cars. They don't have to worry about a qualifying session. They just got to practice their car, get it dialed up for the big race on Saturday.
Yeah, I think another team to look at might be Sam Creech Motorsport, just by seeing that you have veterans and rookies like Jan Sileri, Wayne Boyd, Lance Wilsey. How about Joao Barbosa, a Grand Am champion, returning after a year hiatus from the Rolex 24. Now, prototypes out the window.
Yeah.
GT. You have the GT Le Mans class, which are GTEs, 6 in total, with 4 manufacturers: Corvette, 2 cars, factory team; BMW Team RLL, 2 cars, factory team; and then 2 customer teams with factory-supported drivers: Risi Competizione with Ferrari and WeatherTech Racing for Porsche.
Yeah.
Where will this class
for what class?
GTLM.
Okay. GTLM. GTLM, I feel like it's just like GTLM, for what I'm seeing that I like about this entry. They had a role recently in IMSA, but when they debuted their new car last year in the Rolex 24, both their cars just had issues. One of them had oil leak, the other one got into an accident. This year, that's not going to happen. if you want to know my pick is the number 3 Corvette Racing entry of Antonio Garcia, Jordan Taylor, and Nicky Katzberg.
Well, last year's statistics, I mean, BMW, I know as far as the class win is concerned, they won back-to-back with BMW Team RLL. However, I don't think a teammate will be necessary to win this race. It might provide more information. That might help provide more information for the mechanics and the crew members, but I think WeatherTech Racing might win this thing. Number 79.
Yeah,
they were fast. I mean, we got Jimmy Bruni here. Kevin Estre, Richard Leeds, Cooper McNeil. They don't have any teammates to worry about, maybe except for a few of the GTD with the same factory board and Matthew Jaminet and LP2, but they don't have much to worry about. Just get out there and race and win.
Yeah.
So I think Car 79 will win, but if there's a team that might challenge them, you'll have to look at the BMW. Number 25 is the team from BMW I'm eyeballing, the team RLL, Carnegie Philippe, Field Bang, Timo Glock. Yes, that is Glock. And Bruno Spengler.
Yeah, that entry, the number 25 entry.
I think the 24 might be a good entry too, but Philip Bang, I think, was part of the Nürburgring 24-hour winning lineup last year. So they're experienced. Connor Felipe.
Timo Glock,
another 24-hour of Nürburgring winner.
Yeah, you have experience in that lineup.
Absolutely.
Which you need experience. You can't just buy a team and hey, me and my 3 buddies are gonna go race the Rolex.
That's why you have racing licenses.
yeah, but you need experience, because IMSA cars. It's not like you're saying, oh, I'm gonna run an ARCA team. ARCA's not even close to this. IMSA, you need experience running lower league sports car races.
And also, I think you need some wisdom too. You just have to really stay composed and just run the race, and eventually, take care of the car. It's a long race. I mean,
it's not a race that you gotta.
It's not a Formula 2 Grand Prix or any of that.
It's not short like that. It's not the Clash at Daytona. It's not stuff like that. No, this. It's 24 hours. You don't need to push so fast.
And then lastly, the GT Daytona class technically is the GT3 class with manufacturers such as Lamborghinis, Porsches. We have Lexus, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Mercedes AMG, Acura. Well, technically the Honda NSX rebranded as Acura here. The Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo will have a BMW on the lineup. Very compact. In fact, the GTD class is the most populated in the 24 with 19 overall entries. We were going to have 20, but then unfortunately Black Swan Racing, Tim Pappas had to pull out after testing positive.
Yeah, but it's still going to be really competitive. 19 cars. You're going to see a competitiveness in this class.
And the experience is just, it's hard to make a prediction, but let's highlight a few cars. I'm going to start off with, a team that didn't really gain too much attention, but don't be surprised if they end up on the podium. And that will have to be Allegra Motorsports, number 28 Mercedes AMG GT3 with Michael De Quesada, Daniel Morad, Billy Johnson, and Maxime Buick.
Yeah.
Factory driver, Maxime Buick, part of the lineup. Billy Johnson, who is a gentleman driver that has been around the American levels of sports car racing.
Yep.
A former Ford factory driver. I don't think he is a Ford factory driver anymore.
No, he's not.
He probably still is a test driver. But Daniel Morad,
Yep.
Age 30 from Canada.
Yep.
Made a brief Pinty's stint in the Toronto Grand Prix. Just a fun fact.
Yeah.
But I think Maxie Buick will have a lot of input that can help a customer Mercedes team like Allegra Motorsports.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people talk about Michael De Quesada, but he was actually a fast driver for the Lexus last year.
Yeah, he was.
It was last year. No, it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Last year.
I'm also another entry. I see another entry on here that is a fast car. It's a Porsche. The number 9, Pfaff Motorsports. They have experience in this lineup. They got Zachary Robichon, Lawrence Ventor, Lars Kern, and Matt Campbell. That is a good. That's a solid lineup right there. But sadly, that car in 2019 crashed on that restart. We ran 2 laps and then the red flag came out like that. But I feel Pfaff Motorsports, they have a good shot at it. They have experienced drivers, good team. They have the experience in that number 9 car.
And they have the factory drivers. That makes a big difference, does it?
Yeah, and also they were second in their class in the Motul qualifying event, but they still had a good car. Like, the drivers know where to place the car, and they didn't do much mistakes, because you can't always make mistakes. Like, I know it's a 24-hour race, but if you do good solid first part of the race and then at the end, couple hours left, you do a mistake and have an accident, that's not how you want to end your race. You want to limit your mistakes. I know early on you could do a mistake, but you don't want to do a mistake with like 1 hour left in the race and just throw your race away.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we're going to make our predictions for the GT Daytona class. So which GT3 will finish first in the category?
Okay. My pick, so people just don't do anything. My pick, this team, they have a fast, decent lineup. They had a good qualifying race yesterday. The entry number 9, Pfaff Motorsports Porsche, driven by Zachary Robichon, Lawrence Ventor, Lars Kern, and Matt Campbell will take that number 9 and win in the GTD class.
Oh, Canada on the podium, Justin. Just like the doctor ordered. All right, my prediction will be this one. This team had trouble. They're a Porsche team, but they had some trouble in the qualifying race, and now that they need to repair. But 3 of the 4 drivers I've seen show tons of experience. We have an owner driver who is part of the Porsche factory squad. 2 female drivers that have very, very good stats on these road races, and one who's just coming out of injury.
Yeah,
we have a driver that we haven't seen too much, and that, of course, is number 88, Team Hardpoint with Earl Bamber Motorsport, Porsche 911 GT3R, Car 88 with Christy Nielsen, Catherine Legg, Rob Ferriel, and the one and only Earl Bamber. So that team will win.
Okay.
New Zealand fans will be happy for sure.
I said for a joke, when you said 80, I said Dale Jr. But no, Dale Jr.'s not running that. No, he's not going to be.
In fact, Dale Jr. almost won the 2005 race overall before a car had a problem.
Oh.
It was a car with Andy Wallace, I think it was. It was the 2005 Rolex 24. It actually was won by Emmanuel Collard, Max Angelilli, Wayne Taylor for Wayne's team, but I don't think it was maybe it was 2005. It was 2000. No, it was 2004.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, it was the Howard Boss Motorsport Chevrolet Crawford DP that was driven by Andy Wallace, Tony Stewart, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. the car failed in the final hour,
Oh, come
completing
on.
519 laps,
Oh,
giving the win to Bell Motorsports
that
and
just
brand Pontiac.
well, that just sucks when you're like just dominating, and then the final hour your car just fails. It's like, why? It's like,
That is the reality of endurance racing.
Oh.
Remember, Toyota, the Toyota
Oh, yeah.
Hiro Katayama, 1999, leading in the final hour of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, cuts down a tire, a puncture in the most straight, as far away from the pits as possible. This is the race.
Oh.
In the 2016, we all know
Yeah.
the car died in front of the crowd with 5 minutes to go.
Porsche took the win. I remember I remember 2017.
2017 was worse.
All the Toyota, they had 3 cars and all of them failed. All 3 Toyotas had issues.
And it wasn't like they just shut off. No, they were crawling like turtles. Like there was some kind of hope they can return. And that was in the hybrid LMP1 era. It just
it's like all 3
the hybrid cars. Let's go.
Like people say, oh, Toyota's failing. No, they had 3 and all of them.
I was about to question whether or not they were actually working with people who were part of the McLaren Honda shop then in 2017.
Oh yeah, McLaren.
But ironically, they finally won in 2018. And yes, the former McLaren Honda driver Fernando Alonso was in that lineup.
Oh yeah, because I remember those Toyotas in 2017 when all 3.
I remember 2018. I was holding my breath, like, come on, clock, just wind up faster.
Yeah.
And Toyota won.
Yeah, I remember that because 2017. I remember they usually entered only 2 entries, the 7 and the 8. Then they entered the 9. I remember
they entered 3 to ensure that something could give them an extra chance of winning. Interesting, it happened.
No, all 3 failed instead.
And Porsche, the overall winning Porsche that same year, Le Mans almost failed too.
Yeah.
In fact, we were so close to seeing an LMP2 car win overall. What was the last time the intended overall winning class to not win overall? I think it goes back to the FIA GT1 era.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Sure has.
Yeah.
Well, I think this might be the end of the podcast, Below the Yellow Line podcast episode 55.
55, 95.
95.
I was about to, no, we didn't go back to 2018. We didn't time travel to 2018.
You can tell I'm getting tired when I start misspelling numbers of all things.
Yeah, we didn't time travel to early 2020. We didn't travel back in time.
I need hindsight 2020, please. So I named those last 3 episodes of 2020 hindsight. Like, just get out of that year. We're in 2021. We still have to wear those what do you call them? Face masks.
Yeah, we still gotta.
They go over the nose.
Yeah, and we gotta still wear them, and people still go to parties when they are not supposed to. But I stay home and not get fines. That's basically what I'm just respecting the rules. I don't want to get a fine because who wants to pay a $500 fine?
And who wants to be a Florida man? Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this 24-hour racing Daytona is going to be an interesting one. I might stay up and watch the whole thing. Hopefully I don't pass out.
Hopefully I don't fall asleep like Australia 2019, but I'm gonna be missing the race, obviously, the beginning. I'm at work, but if you live in Canada, you do not need to switch off an app. Like in the United States, you got to go between NBC, NBCS, and then the app. While Canada, it's just on Discovery Velocity. If you live in Canada, just tune in on that channel. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And of course, on the NBC Sports Networks for the last time, the 24 Hours of Daytona will be on the NBC Sports Network at one point because NBC Universal is the Dr. Eggman of TV and telecommunications in the United States and probably across the world. So, for people who can't stand Peacock and the other streaming devices like Disney Plus and CBS, whatever they call it, and just get used to it because that's the new age. And IndyCar and the new contract is, I think it's really horrendous. But
well, at least it's not like the Canadian deal in 2019. That
you guys were screwed in 2019.
Yeah, but 2021, I heard it's going to be more on TV again. So at least they're nice this year, not like 2019 where like premium network, except Toronto Indy 500. That's the only race.
$60 a month, Justin.
Yeah, I was not about to pay $60 a month. That's literally the price of my phone bill. So I'm not willing to pay that. But yeah.
All right, so that's the end of episode 95. I said it this time correctly.
Yeah.
For Danny and Justin, I'm Joe. Signing off. Have a good night.
Yeah.